Alrighty, so today we're going to talk about FC Dallas in the Moving Forward series episode, and there's no doubt that Dallas was one of the most disappointing teams this season. I mean, this team had a lot of aspiration of potentially finally get over the hump, especially with the way that coming into the season, the big problem for this Dallas team is that they don't have enough on the attacking end, but with the way that they add some attack, especially signing a big name DP number 9 in Petter Musa. You would have thought that of course would get them over the hump, right? Well, no. Instead, it was kind of the opposite of what we saw. That was a big downfall for Dallas this season, where for the first time and really for the past couple of years, it was the defense that was a huge liability to this team, and eventually, it got so bad to a point where they fired their head coach. They did bring in Peter Lucien as the interim head coach, and it worked for a while. But as we always said, when it comes to interim head coach, you usually get that new interim head coach boost in the beginning. But once it ran out, oh yeah, it definitely didn't go so well for Dallas when with them collapsing late in the season. And again, this is a team that have rarely miss out on the playoffs, and it's one of the rare times that they miss out on the playoff. I think this is only like the fourth time or the fifth time in this proud franchise history that this team has missed out on the playoffs. But that being said, they finished with 11-8-15 record and finished with 41 points. They scored 54 goals this season, which is definitely better compared to previous year. But what is not better is the 56 goals that they conceded. I mean, that is a lot of goals for a team that have always been one of the better defensive team in the league, and they have a -2 goal differential. And then, of course, they finished 11 in the Western Conference. Now, looking at the last 5 seasons for Dallas in 2023, of course, they finished in 7th place with 11, 13, and 10 record and finished with 46 points. But unfortunately, they got eliminated by the team that I'm pretty sure Dallas fans, they must hate the Seattle Sounders. Like the Sounders, is a team that is pretty much in every Dallas fan's nightmare because they just simply cannot beat this team, in the postseason. They pretty much own this team in the postseason. In fact, you could say pretty much both of the Cascadia team, both Portland and Seattle, has pretty much owned Dallas in the playoffs because most of the elimination that Dallas suffered in the postseason has came from either of those two Cascadia teams. But in 2022, it was a great season for Dallas. They finished third place with 14, 11, and 9 record and finished with 53 points. But unfortunately, they also weren't able to get past the second round. And this time, I think this one hurts even more because they lost to Austin FC, their hated intercity rival. And there's no doubt that Austin provided some great stories in that year. It was an incredible run that they had in their second season. But yeah, there was a chance that they could have caused an upset against their intercity rival. Unable to do so, unable to get to past the dreaded second round that's kind of lured them throughout the years. And then in 2021, this was also another one of those off season with them finishing 11th place with 7, 12, and 15 record finish with 33 points. Now the COVID shortened season, they finished sixth with a 9, 7, and 6 record and finished with 34 points. But unfortunately, it's that team again, the Seattle Sounders, that they got eliminated this time in the second round. And I believe in the previous round, they actually kind of overcome their demons a little bit by beating a Cascadia team that is the Portland Timbers, and even did it in a PK shootout as well. But yeah, no such luck in turns of the second round against the other Cascadia team, and that goes the same in 2019 too. They finished in seventh place with 13, 9, and 12 record and finished with 48 points. But unfortunately, it's that Seattle team again that is their ultimate downfall. And I gotta say that this game that they played in 2019, unlike where 2020 was relatively close, there was only like one goal that separated between both of these teams. This one was kind of similar to that, but it's also the fact that it was kind of the complete opposite. Where while there was only one goals that was scored in 2020 in their loss against Seattle, there was 7 goals that was scored. It was an entertaining game. It was a game where Dallas really showed their resilience throughout the game, coming back 3 times in that game to send to extra time, but ultimately undone in extra time by conceding that fourth goal, and once again lose to the team that pretty much simply has been the fodder of their team when it comes to playoffs, and the ultimate kryptonite of a team that they definitely do not want to face in the playoffs over the years. Now, looking at the top goal scorer for this team, unsurprisingly, it's Pedro Musa, their big money DP signing with 16 goals, followed by Paul Ariola with 5 goals. Then you got Jesus Ferreira with 5 goals, Patrickson Delgado with 4 goals, and Logan Farrington also with 4 goals to round up the top five assists or the top five goal scorer list. Now, when it comes to the top assist leader, it's actually Logan Farrington and Sebastian Lletget leading the team with 8 assists. Logan Farrington is another player that we see this every single year with Dallas, a player that you probably not have not heard about coming from the academy or even coming from the draft, and out of nowhere he started to become a studs, and is definitely a name to be look out for. Yeah, there's no doubt that I think Logan Farrington is that kind of player. What a great season he had this year. But in third place, you got Paul Arriola with 7 assists, Jesus Ferreira with 6 assists, and Ezra Armandi with 6 assists to rounds up the top five in terms of the assist leader for this Dallas team. Now, in terms of the best game of the season, when I look at pretty much most of the result that Dallas has had, there really wasn't any game that really kind of wowed me about this Dallas team. I mean, that just kind of sums up this season where it's been mostly a mediocre season. And when I mean mediocre, I meant mediocre bad kind of season where there wasn't really any games where they really kind of wow you. I mean, I want to say the 5-3 win against Minnesota that I remember back in June might come close to that, because that was a game where Dallas was firing on all cylinder, especially Peter Musa was firing all cylinder. But I'm gonna go with the 3-1 win that they had against Austin, which that didn't really clinch them the Copa Tijas at that moment, but it definitely put them in a good spot to a point where once again they won the Copa Tijas, and again just a little small consolation after just a mostly disappointing season for this Dallas team. Now, the worst game of the season, it's got to be the 3-2 loss that they had against the Quakes. So this is kind of late in the season where they need to win games so they can keep up with some of the teams that is above the red line, and here they are going to San Jose and going to play against the Quakes team that, well, I know the Quakes have had a good history against Dallas, especially at PayPal Park. This was a Quakes team that just physically checked out. Like they all were already thinking about or in Cancun mode there, and for a Dallas team that has pretty much everything to play for, the fact that they look absolutely flat in that game, and don't let the scoreline distract you. The fact that game was not close. I mean, that game the Quakes put on one of their better performance, but part of that is simply just Dallas didn't show up in that game and just look flat whatsoever. And that's also in the midst of a really bad run of form to end the season that turns out to be fatal, which is kind of similar to what we said about TFC as well in my last moving forward series episode of a bad run of form late in the season, and then it kind of derailed any chances of making the playoffs. Now, when it comes to average attendance, 19,094, that's close to capacity crowd at Toyota Stadium. Dallas have numerous times report that they sell out the stadium. I mean, I will say that when it comes to attendance wise, these last couple of years, I think Dallas has done a much better job in terms of attendance compared to about a decade ago. Remember a decade ago where Dallas was a team that was near the bottom of the attendance standings, and big part of that is because they decided to play games are around early evening in the Texas heat, and that is just absolutely insane that is the case. But it's also due to the fact that the team that was feeling wasn't really that fun of a team to watch. Nowadays, I think because of the way that this team is much fun to watch, and not to mention they also really stepped up in terms of their marketing as well. That's kind of one of the biggest reason why the attendance has been much better in recent years compared to previous year. Yeah, obviously great to see that their attendance, of course, is very well, and especially with the way that Toyota Stadium. There have been talks that they are going to renovate the stadium. They're actually going to build kind of a roof over the stands, which that is an absolute must need, especially in the Texas heat, like that. That's also gonna help the attendance as well, because there's one thing about Dallas is that I know Texas is always, when it comes to sports. Football obviously is king in Texas, but soccer is definitely big in Dallas too, especially with the way that when you look at players that is in the national team right now for the U.S. A lot of those players come from Texas, and a lot of players come from the Dallas Academy. This Dallas Academy, along with the Union Academy and even the Red Bulls Academy, is considered the best academy we see right now in MLS. Now, looking at MVP for this season, it's got to be Petter Musa. Again, I think in the beginning, I know Petter Musa. There was definitely some criticism early in the season where he wasn't really banging the goals that you expect him to do. But I think this season, and as the season really goes long, he started to bang the goals, and this is just a classic example of what happened when a player coming into a new league needs to settle in, and then eventually he would get going. And I think once Peter Musa started to settle in, you can see what kind of a goal scorer he has. He is a guy that I think could be a guaranteed 15 plus goal scorer, and could be a guy that I think could challenge for the Golden Boot. I mean, considering the fact that he did it with a team that when you look at this Dallas team when it comes to the playmakers, I mean, there really isn't a lot of big name playmakers out there, and the fact that he's able to do it without any major playmaker, and especially not with Alan Velasco. I can't wait to see the Velasco and Musa competition, and the same goes for Jesus Ferrer as well, depending on if Jesus Ferrer is going to be playing in that similar spot as well. I can't wait to see how that front three is going to look. That front three could be a very interesting bunch heading into next season. Now, disappointment, you would expect me to go with one of the back line because the defense is a huge disappointment. And originally, I was thinking about decided to the disappointing category in terms of the entire back line, where inexplicably the entire back line was just completely off this season. But in the end, I got to go with Bernard Kamungo. What in the world happened to Bernard Kamungo this year? I mean, this was a guy that last year, he was kind of the Logan Farrington kind of player from this season, where a guy that just kind of came out of nowhere and had a very wonderful story as well to make it to the pro, and he just completely fall off the map this season. Now, something tells me this could be just your typical sophomore slump. You usually see that happen where a player can have a breakout season, and it's all about following that up in the second season as well. And more times than not, it is very tough to do so, especially when you're a player that has some great potential. Which I still think Bernard Kamungo can be that guy, but again, just this season, I don't know what happened. Like he just fall off a cliff to a point where he pretty much was down in the pecking order in the depth chart, and hopefully he'll rediscover his good form. Maybe even decided to go to somewhere else because there's really when you look at the depth of this Dallas attack, he's gonna really have to fight for it to try to get himself back to the near the top of the depth chart on the attacking chart that we saw just a year ago compared to what we saw last season. And then of course young player to watch. I already mentioned Logan Farrington. He's a very exciting player. And again, I would also say that when it comes to FC Dallas, there's always a lot. It's always tough to choose a lot who exactly is a young player to watch because there's a lot of good young players on this team. I could have easily gone with Alan Velasco again, or I could have even gone with Patrick Delgado, who is another player that I think is kind of very similar to what I said about Logan Farrington, a guy that nobody kind of heard about in the beginning, and then just kind of blossomed to a point where they did relatively well. So yeah, I think both of those players definitely are a young player to watch. Though again, just like what I said about Bernard Kamungo, it's all about whether or not they can follow that in the second season because you do not want to have a sophomore slump. You want to make to believe that production that both of those guys it was just not simply a fluke in their rookie season. We'll see whether or not if they can do it for the second season as well. So what went right for this FC Dallas team? Well, not much really kind of went right for this team. But they did win the Copa Tijas again. I believe this is the third Copa Tijas that they win ever since this competition was introduced when Austin FC came into the league. Pedro Musa definitely worth the DP money as the season goes along as well. Again, just a typical star player that might struggle in the beginning, but once you give them time, they start to blossom in a way that yeah, it's worth every single money that FC Dallas was able pay to Benfica to get him. And I think the third thing that I also think that went right for this Dallas team, I think at least according to Dallas fan, they fired Nico Estevez. I mean, Nico Estevez definitely was one of the big reasons why this team was very mediocre. The tactics that he used is very similar to what we saw with Luchi Gonzalez, kind of negative tactics at time, really kind of helping this Dallas attack back at times, and it's no surprise that once he left and when Peter Lucine took over this job, it feels like this attack was more free flowing compared to when it was under Nico Estevez in the beginning of the season. But that being said, in terms of what went wrong for this team, so no matter is either it's under Nico Estevez or Peter Lucine, both of these head coaches just cannot fix the defense. I mean, I don't know what happened to the defense, and this is I think Dallas. This is something similar to what we said about the Union as well. You know, both of these teams have been considered some of the best defensive team in recent years, and then this season they just kind of unexpectedly regress, and the back line just completely fall off the cliff. And again, you know, this team for a while their defense is considered one of the best in the league, but this season, I mean, I don't know what happened. It just all their player underachieved massively to, and even the goalkeeper too, Martin Paz. I mean, as much as I praise Martin Paz of being one of the more underrated goalkeeper last season. This season, I mean, I don't know what happened to him either. I mean, part of that I would say isn't really his fault because when his defense at times just completely hung out to dry, and most of the goals that he conceded, it really isn't on him. It's just it's really because of bad defending. Still, I mean, it just I don't know what happened when it comes to this defense, and you would expect maybe they should be bounced back heading next season. Though we'll talk about that in just a bit. Injuries to core player that was badly missed was another reason why things kind of went wrong. So again, when you look at the core of the this team, you know, it feels like this team they really need their core player to be successful. That maybe could also could point out how this team maybe lack some depth as well that they might need to boost during the off season. But yeah, those core players, the likes of Alan Velasco, they had to wait near the end of the season before he come back into the fold, and obviously he still wasn't completely healthy even coming back from the fold. Jesus Ferreira, he's been on and off when it comes to on the pitch this season. Even Paul Arriola suffered some injury time as well, and even ISR Aramandi, his season kind of got cut short in the beginning as well. They just there was just so many injuries to core player that when you lose that many injuries to core piece like that, it is very hard to be successful unless you have a team that has a very decent depth that can accompany that, and I just don't think Dallas has that. And then, of course, the interim head coach boots just kind of ran out for Peter Lucien late in the season. One win in the last six kind of really derailed their any chances of them making the playoffs. So moving forward, how will this Dallas team look in the future? Obviously, they hire another head coach with Eric Kuhl, could not only bring some attacking flair from his day with New Mexico United, but he's a guy that obviously has a background being with the FC Dallas organization. He was the head coach of their affiliate team, North Texas SC, in the USL League One, and now playing in the MLS Next Pro. And this is not a big surprise that Dallas decided to hire another head coach internally. I mean, we've seen this happen for the past couple of head coach that's been hired for this team. They like to hire internally, or at least anyone that has been with this FC Dallas organization. Though again, I don't know that that might be the right choice considering it hasn't really worked out. Like you look at the last couple of Dallas head coach that has a background in terms of youth development and also being with this organization, neither of them really guide them to a lot of success. And I know Dallas is always a team that focus on youth. They definitely praise that of their academy that can really build the team. But at the same time, you just kind of had a sense that they probably could have done better and maybe be a little bit more ambitious when it comes to their head coaching hire. Though, as I said, you know, Eric Quill, definitely did very well with New Mexico last season, got them first in the Western Conference, and they play some very fun soccer too, which is something that I think Dallas might need heading into this season as well. Like the Union, will they stick with their defensive core despite a down year? So one thing we have recently seen with the Union, not only the fact that they are kind of started getting rid of some of their core pieces, but one of their major defensive core player in Jack Elliott is now with the Chicago Fire. So they actually dismantled their back line. Now for Dallas, as of now, it doesn't seem like they have any plan of dismantling their back line. They're hoping the likes of Ibiaga, Kosi Tafari, and even Marco Farfan would have a bounce back year after all three of those guys just clearly suffer for a down year and had an underachieving season. but we'll see whether or not if is the case, because it is risky when you decided to hope that these guys just had a bad year and have a bounce back year heading in next season. Because on one hand, if you trust that they will have a bounce back year next season, there's no doubt that this team would be much better, especially once they get the some of these core pieces that was out for most of the last season back healthy. But on the other hand, if those defensive players that not only once again struggle again, but just once again this defense kind of fall apart like what we saw this year, there's no doubt that they might have to think about serious changes in terms of the back line itself. And then of course, the other thing moving forward is, can cornerstone piece like Jesus Ferrer and Alan Velasco get themselves back into their best form coming off of injury riddle season? So again, for Alan Velasco coming off of a torn ACL injury, you can clearly see it definitely took some time for him to try to get himself back to his best, and to this day we still don't know whether or not if he is going to be back to his best, because anytime when you suffer a torn ACL injury, whether you're a young player or you're an older player, you're not going to be the same after you torn that ACL. So it'll be interesting to see whether if he can get himself back to his best. I mean, even if he can get himself at least like 75% back to his best, he could be one of the more dynamic number 10 player in this league. And the same goes with Jesus Ferreira. Again, it was a very injury riddle season. There was even talk the fact that he could potentially going to the Seattle Sounders as well. Although from what I heard, it seems like that rumor has kind of died down little bit. So it seems like most likely he's going to be with the team next season as well. But either way, this is a team that I think they should have a bounce back year. I mean, last season was just, with them getting off to such a bad start to the season, and then they just kind of never got going. I mean, I think that you would expect this team should be back being a playoff contender, because if there's one thing we know about Dallas, as I said earlier in this video, this is a team that don't miss the playoffs very often. This is a team that have always had a pretty respectable regular season, and I expect that could be the case heading into next season as well. But there you have it. That is pretty much it in terms of the moving forward series episode. Talk about FC Dallas, and as always, let me know in the comments below what do you think of this video, and if you're a Dallas fan, what do you think is the MVP, disappointment, young player to watch? What went right? What went wrong? And most importantly, moving forward, how is the team going to look heading into next season? But until then, hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I will see you guys next time.